What if burnout isn't coming from your workload, but from what you tolerate in your daily life? And what if I tell you, folks, that anxiety, the brain fog, and emotional swings aren't random, but quietly built by small habits we call normal? Tonight, we're talking about that invisible link between discipline outside of work and performance inside of it, and why structure might be the most underrated mental health tool that we have. So, welcome back to another episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm Sayan, as some of you would know, and this is the space where we explore about the practical and grounded ways to strengthen your mind in everyday life. Today, I'm joined by Jaben Makings, the founder of a real estate investment company and someone who speaks about focus, systems, accountability, and how discipline outside of work shapes success inside of it openly. So, I invite you all to join me on this conversation where we could be diving into something powerful, how daily habits, or what I like to call micro habits, and personal standards, it builds something bigger, especially for high performers. So, Jabin, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here with me, and I'm excited to see where this conversation flows to.
Hey, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers. So, I mean, before we get tactical, I'm kind of curious as to when you look back at the earlier version of yourself, right? The one that was chasing shortcuts and bouncing between ideas, seeing what would work out for him. What was really going on internally at that point in your life?
Yeah, so when I grew up in a small town in Nebraska, right? 1,200 people. And I knew early on that I didn't like school. But I didn't hate learning, but I just kind of hated the system, right? I hated sitting there all day. I was constantly getting in trouble because I was fidgeting. But outside of school, I was working from a very young age. I was starting businesses from a very young age. And I remember when I think it was my junior or senior year, I was at work and my mom had called me and she was freaking out because she had gotten my ACT score. For those of you who don't know what the ACT is, it's this test you take essentially to get into college. And I had went through and I'd literally bubbled in all random answers because I didn't care. And so at that point, it was uh, kind of clear that college may not be for me. So I moved down to Arizona about a month or two after I graduated, right? About a month after I turned 18 and got into pools because I wanted to start a pool company eventually. And as I was working for this pool company, I I realized that this wasn't for me, and it wasn't because of the hard work, right? I wasn't afraid of the hard work, but I saw the owner who was in his 60s. He had to go and clean pools sometimes when people would call out sick, and I was like, I don't want to do this long term, right? So knowing what I know now, if the business was set up a little bit differently, things wouldn't be that way, right? And you probably wouldn't have to go out there and clean the pools. But that really scared me when I was a young guy. And so I thought, what's the next best thing that I can go out and make a ton of money and get super rich super quick? I'm like, let me get into real estate. So I went and got my real estate license, joined the team, and that was fun. It couldn't have been further from the truth that it was going to be quick and easy money. So as I was doing that, my biggest downfall was something called shiny object syndrome, right? And what that is where you're chasing something new constant, right? So every few months, I would be on to the next big idea. So you name it, like Amazon, FBA, drop shipping, solar, like you name any of these trendy business ideas, I had either thought about it or I had tried to start it. So my biggest enemy wasn't lack of opportunity. It was a lack of focus, right? I was constantly thinking the grass is greener on the other side. So if you were
The clarity, it's a
yeah, if you're just getting started in business, do not jump around and do different things. You need to focus on one thing for several years. It's going to be a lot harder than you think. And as soon as it gets hard, don't look to find something easier because that something easier that you switch to is going to get hard as well at some point. So in order to be great at anything, you have to be obsessive and lock in on that one thing.
Yeah, it's a powerful message indeed. And before we actually jump onto the next aspect of the conversation, Javen, did you know that fidgeting actually increases your memory?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought I would let you know before I move on to the next part of the conversation.
There's
But
a
yeah,
benefit to it then.
yeah, it is because I fidget a lot as well myself, and I came across this recently. But anyway, I think that's a powerful message, David.
We'll go tell the teachers in high school that it's a good thing.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I mean, yeah, that's something that David, I believe a lot of young entrepreneurs really do. I mean, chase right the shiny new ideas in the market right now. Try to capture that perhaps, and I think that's because I would say lack of focus, like you said, lack of the curiosity. But now, if we stay that with a moment, Javen, real estate did work out for you. You mentioned that, right? But while we talk about real estate, I mean, we'll definitely dig deeper into that. But you also mentioned that choosing comfort, right? I mean, drinking, poor sleep, lack of structure, it quietly increased stress and anxiety, even while your business was technically working. So, why do you think high performers drift towards those comfort patterns in the first place?
I think I don't know if it's necessarily high performers that drift to comfort. I think it's like everybody, right? Everybody, the human body naturally wants to pick what's easiest, right? So the biggest mistake I see people making is they're constantly choosing comfort, right? So they're gonna go to McDonald's instead of eating something clean. They're gonna stay up late watching Netflix. They're gonna sleep in. They're not gonna go to the gym. They're gonna have a couple drinks at night, right? And what I found out is that in order to be successful, there is going to be a lot of discomfort. I'm going to have to endure a lot of pain. And if I'm constantly choosing comfort outside of work, not eating clean, not going to the gym, all this stuff that's really easy in the moment, but it hurts us long term, but I'm doing it just because it feels good. If I'm constantly chasing that in the moment, there's no way it doesn't translate into my business where I'm chasing comfort in my business as well. Right. So when
On
I
Yeah.
so when I started Onyx, several years ago, about 2.5 years ago now, I made a commitment to myself that I'm going to lock in for at least 3 years, right? I'm not going to touch anything new. And even after starting it, I was still chasing comfort. I wasn't chasing the shiny objects anymore, but I was still chasing comfort. So I decided to quit drinking about a year and a half ago, and I decided to start picking things that are hard. So now I wake up early. I do the cold. I go to the gym. So anything that's difficult or my body doesn't really want to do, I tend to lean that way because I know that that's what's required of me to be super successful, right?
Yeah, it did. I think there's a subtle, I mean, it's a profound realization of, when, I mean, the first initial moment of you stepping out of that comfort zone is, I would say, disgustingly awkward for you, right? It requires a lot of energy. It drains your, I mean, uh, mental, and I would also say it takes a lot of physical. I mean, it does show up physically as well. But I was reading this book by David Coggins where he mentioned that if you don't feel like doing a thing, you should get up and do that thing. That's how you're training yourself to, I mean, get out of the comfort zone. And that thing instantly clicked with me. And I tried that. And, it does increase the, I would say, comfort zone, that bubble that you live in initially, right? So if we talk about real estate, Charan, right? How would you say it's different from any other industry, right? Is it the constant pressure of getting in deals, negotiation perhaps? What's in for you, and what's in for all the listeners who are listening to this right now who maybe are at the real estate and struggling because of burnout or a lot of pressure, I would say. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, real estate's it's different, but it's the same, right? I think a lot of businesses are the same. But I think one of the biggest similarities with real estate and other businesses is the sales aspect. So when I became a real estate agent at 18, I thought I was getting into real estate, quote unquote, but in reality, I was getting into a sales job. Right, my job is to reach out to clients and sell them on these houses. When I started this company, it's all sales, right? I'm selling. It's a little bit different, right? We do investment properties instead of selling traditional homes. So we go out and find these homes with sellers that need cash offers. We'll take them, put them under contract, and then sell them to an end buyer for a higher price. But that's all sales, right? I'm selling these people on bringing us these properties. I'm selling them to the buyer. I'm selling employees on why they should work here. Like everything is sales, sales, sales. And so I think a lot of businesses have that. Every good business needs sales within it. So the businesses could be in completely different industries and seem way different, but I think most businesses are fairly similar at the core because they have several pillars several of the same pillars, right? Sales, marketing, stuff like that. A lot of people think sales is like being a smooth talker and being able to talk really fast. I think it's the opposite. Like maybe back in the 80s, it was like that. What sales to me is being able to gather as much information as possible so that way you can help the client or whoever make the best decision possible, and then you can help guide them with that information. So if I'm going to sell anything, I'm not just going to start spewing crap out and trying to like physically sell this thing. I'm going to get information up front and make sure that, it's they're in the market for that and it's something that they want. And then I'm going to ask them other qualifying questions and figure out what exactly it is that they're looking for.
Yeah, indeed. I think that's a very different answer, Javen, of what I usually ask people and what I expect. I would say that's a very different answer, and I really loved how you reframed that because I think sales indeed is providing value to the end customer, right? And how you see value, how you provide it. I think that's the skill, indeed. But when you decided to in your whole life remove escapes and rebuild structure, right? What did that actually look like for you in practice so that we get into that practical framework, we get the feels of how it looked like for you so that other listeners could relate to it as well?
Yeah, it was really tough, right? Starting to build these habits, but as I started doing these little habits every single day, like they compounded and I continued to add habits. So I'm going to kind of give you a breakdown of what I do daily now. But if you're listening to this, don't let that scare you away because I didn't start like this, and I really struggled to even start with the first step, right? And I slowly added these things on, and they got easier with time. But now I wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. I'll go in cold plunge. That's the very first thing I'll do. I'll get in the cold plunge for 2 minutes, and then I'll go to the gym. I'll come back. I get to work typically between 6:30 and 7:30, depending on the day. And then I'm usually
That's crazy.
usually either till well after 5, sometimes late into the night, and then Saturdays and Sundays I try and follow some sort of routine where I cold plunge. I go for walks and stuff. I typically won't go to the gym on the weekends, but I try and keep an early wake up schedule as well on the weekends. But if you're hearing that and that like blows your mind, like, oh, waking up at 4 a.m., I get in the cold plunge, go to the gym, like it sounds overwhelming at first, but I would just say to start small. You can't eat the elephant in one bite, right? Because I remembered I wanted to go to the gym and build that habit for such a long time, but I never actually did, right? I struggled with it. I struggled with waking up early. So it's just starting small and wake up, 15, 30 minutes earlier, wake up an hour earlier and just continue to build that muscle. Go to the gym for 30 minutes, right? Just show up every day. And eventually, after a few weeks, it's going to feel very uncomfortable at first, but after a few weeks, it kind of becomes routine and it becomes natural.
Yeah, and listening to you, I realize that it just boils down to consistency, no matter what you do, right? That's the thing. So for a lot of us listening to this right now, somewhat might be, I would say, influenced in a bad way, in a negative way by, say, social media. Like they are procrastinating maybe way too much, right? And they know that for a fact. Maybe there's this guilt is with, but when you talk about consistency driven, right? That you started with and you built on that consistency. What's your, go-to advice to be consistent? I mean, how do you see it, like on paper and then on real life?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. Consistency is everything in life, right? I used to go in, I used to sprint and go really hard for a short period of time and then stop, and then sprint really hard again and then stop. But I figured out that the person who goes at a steady pace, but continues to go at the steady pace without slowing down or speeding up is going to win 9 times out of 10. Right. So just you need to build that muscle and build the discipline. I think it all comes down to discipline, right? Because staying consistent when you're motivated is easy because you're actually excited about it.
Exactly.
But you need to have kind of a set schedule. So I work very hard off my calendar, right? And I have everything mapped out from the time that I wake up until the time that I go to bed, like literally everything in between. And no matter what, almost down to a T, I follow that every single day. And I'm not motivated and excited every day, right? There's some days I am, but a lot of days I'm just I'm tired or I'm burnt out, whatever it may be. But I still show up and I do the stuff that I'm supposed to because I made that commitment to myself. I made that commitment to my family, to my team. And by skipping out and breaking those promises to myself, I'm letting everybody else around me down. So lacing stuff out, whether that's in your calendar or whatever it may be, and don't try and go all out at once, right? Like I was saying earlier, start small, but be very, very consistent with those small things, and then slowly stack more on top of it, and be consistent with that, and then stack more, and then be consistent with that.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. It's interesting because, it suggests to me and to so many of us listening to this right now that when you talk about discipline, right? And did you know, by the way, Javen, discipline actually means punishment. So there's this, concept. But, what it suggests me is that when you talk about discipline, right, it isn't punishment. I think it's alignment, right? Alignment with your goals. That would again come from clarity. Do I want this, right? Because initially, when you have an initial schedule, it's easy because there's the motivation, like you mentioned, right? But as it drains down, it is that point when it becomes difficult. And I think if somebody wants something badly, like I want to do this, that's when consistency shows up for that person. But is there anything else, perhaps a different perspective that you would like to add to this?
About the consistency,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's just the calendar is the biggest thing, right? You just gotta do it. You just gotta do it and build the muscle, right? It's not gonna be easy at first. It's gonna suck. But you just continue to show up and do it. And if you ever want to be successful, you have to have discipline in your life. You need to be disciplined. You're never going to be successful by going at it for 3 days and then stopping and then never doing it again, or maybe doing it again in a couple of weeks. Like it's just not possible. You're not going to be successful. The most successful people in the world are the ones who stay consistent. They show up every day, regardless whether it's raining or it's sunny or they're sick or they're healthy, they're motivated, or maybe they're not motivated, they're burned out. They show up and do and perform at their best every single day, regardless of how they're feeling that day.
Absolutely. I think to help all of you visualize that, folks, and how I see consistency myself, Jivat, is that I would say to be successful, bear with me with this. All right, you need luck, right? But when I say luck, I need to say that it's there's a very little chance that somebody becomes successful overnight, right? Like almost 0.00001%. Let's stay with that for a second, right? But if you do those patterns every day and every day and every day, your consistency is increasing the surface area for that luck, right? And that's how you're tapping into, I would say, you're building up drop by drop, and that's how you're leading to success. So that's just how I visualize it. I'm not sure if if you could relate to it or not. But yeah, I think consistency is indeed that very pillar that no matter which industry you're in, or if you want to be a like sportsman, or you want to become a businessman. I think it's something that definitely becomes the part of who we are. So if there's one thing to remember from today's conversation, folks, I think it's that mental clarity isn't accidental. Like there is no right time. All right, it's built through daily structured and personal standards that protect your future self. So that's the kind of I would say thought that I would like you to ponder about after we're done with this conversation. But Javid, since we are nearing the minute mark, would quickly love to ask if listeners want to connect with you, learn more about your work, or follow your journey, where's the best place for them to find you at?
Yeah, so the podcast name's Healthy Mind. So send me the word healthy on Instagram. My Instagram's Jaben.makings. And I'll send you over the scripting that we use when we're cold calling our agents that bring us these off-market properties. So DM me the word healthy or health, and then I will send you guys the script. And I'm always happy to answer questions if anybody's struggling with anything or thinking about getting into real estate.
Perfect. That's lovely, Jabin. I really appreciate that, and definitely will include the link in the show notes for you all, so you can easily find Jabin on Instagram. And with that, folks, to everyone listening, I just wanted to add that discipline isn't about control, right? It's about freedom and the habits that you tolerate today right? It does quietly shape drop by drop the mind that you live with tomorrow. So if this conversation did resonate with you at any degree, like I always say, share it with someone who needs this kind of structure, not just motivation. And as always, take one small action that strengthens your mind before the day ends. This has been Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, and I'm Sayan, and I'll see you the next one.